Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions are initially addressed to Dr. Brenner. First of all, thank you very much for recognizing the problems that we currently have or had in the past 10 years with the student immigration and student permit program. I want to provide some background to my question that's coming. So you were the lead author on a 2025 paper where you compared the higher education institutions of Australia, Canada, and Germany from 1990 to 2019 with regard to their roles in immigration governance. And I couldn't help but notice that in your summary of Australia's 2011 Strategic Review of Student Visa Program, the main policy issue faced by the Australia over a decade ago maps closely to what Canada is facing today. Your summary of the problem faced by Australia in 2011 was that the tarnished reputation of the Australian education sector due to the growth of unscrupulous private colleges and non-genuine international students using education as a pathway for immigration. In your discussion of this report, I see statements that track to present-day Canada, such as 1, international students were exploited by private education providers and agents. 2, student visa program integrity was at stake. And 3, the quality of education was perceived to diminish at some institutions. Given your understanding of the evolving migration policy landscape in Australia and Canada as tied to higher education institutions, my question to you relates to the trajectories. Do you agree that there is a time delay parallel between Australia and Canada as related to the international students in the policy domain where education meets immigration? And if so, what lessons can Canada learn from the crisis Australia faced in 2011?
Thank you for the question. I think Dr. Chilukakar has spoken to this a bit in her comments. I think that there are similar competing priorities among policy actors and jurisdictional frictions in Australia and Canada. They happen at different periods of time, and there's obviously significant differences in the two countries, but I think they do both suffer from a challenge on the higher education side, which is funding issues and the resulting marketization of public post-secondary institutions, and then on the immigration side, explicitly positioning permanent residency as a carrot without enough space for all of those students to transfer to permanent residency, and an impact on the higher education system in terms of what kinds of programs are attracting students and whether that aligns with the labor market. I think Germany is very interesting because in Germany, international students are not charged differential tuition compared to domestic students. And in Germany, essentially, the higher education system is funded much more robustly than in Canada. So we really see that the marketization of higher education has a very big impact. If we have more opportunities for funding for higher education, I think that would stabilize some of the issues, of course, with regulation as well. But you see, Germany is primarily attracting international students as immigrants, not necessarily to fund their higher education system.
Thank you for that response. Just want to follow up then, what role would international student caps have played in the mitigation of the exploitation that international students faced in Australia and Canada?
Well, I do think that I think that the rapid growth of temporary residents overall in 2022 and 2023, contributed to Canada having the highest annual population growth rate since 1957. The population growth has since slowed with the caps, and I understand that public attitudes towards immigration is very important for Canada in order to maintain the social license of having support for immigration, which we know that the country significantly depends on.
Thank you for that. Moving on to a different area. So in your analysis, in your report, you highlighted that higher education's recognition of its economic dependence on international students as a vulnerability was the former notable focus on the briefs that you've encountered. So my question to you is, why are we issuing study permits to foreigners who have not demonstrated at least a working proficiency in one of our national languages, such that they need language training after graduating?
A brief answer.
I would have to see exactly what you're referring to, but
this is about the 2023 paper that you issued?
I'm not aware that there are any institutions in Canada that don't have a minimum language requirement of French or English, but I could be mistaken. I'm not sure.
Thank you. We are out of time.